Hello, my name's Harold, and went for on Sunday for a bench rest match, and I did pretty good. I didn't win anything or even finish in the money, but I had three pretty good targets. I scored 246, 247, and 248. This is my 248 target here. Now these up here at the top, these are siders, and these right along the edges here, those are siders. They don't count in the score. But in case you had never done this, you get 25 minutes to shoot these 25 little bullseyes, and you can only have one hole in each one of these squares, in the bullseye there. And if you get right in the middle like that, not only is that 10 points, but that's an X, because the little dot, the little X in the middle has been wiped out. Some targets have a tiny little X and some have a dot, but you gotta get rid of the most of whatever it is, the X or the dot, to count for that. But a perfect score, since these are 10 points apiece, a perfect score is 250. And one of the guys out there today shot 250, 250, 250. He got a perfect score every target, and he had, I don't have any X's. But this is mine, and this is my best one. I got 248 on this one. And what you do is you shoot this at 50 yards, and if you can cut any part of that 10 ring, which is the little ring right here in the middle, you can cut any part of that 10 ring, you get the whole 10 points. If you go start backing out into these other rings, you get a point knocked off every time you go out, further out. And just a little bit of a bad shot can ruin your whole score. They give you these up at the top up here. These are deciders. You can shoot them all the times you want to till you get to the idea of where your gun's shooting at right at that minute. And like right here's a sider that I shot when I got down here, just to make sure that the wind wasn't moving on me, because I made that bad shot right there. And after doing a sider, then I started to get more back on target there, and got me an X right there. So anyway, you've seen enough of that. I was thinking today we're going to work on improving my Foundry a little bit. The other day, who was it? Kilroy, Mr. James Kilroy. He said he was going to start trying to cast a vise like the one that Tom Lipton's working on, and he was going to start off with. He was going to use the lost wax casting method, or lost foam casting, where you make a model of it out of foam, put it down in the sand, pack it, and just leave it in there, and you pour the metal in on top of it, and it melts out all the foam and leaves the item in there. And so I volunteered to do in his comments there. I made him an offer that I'd like to do the aluminum castings of it, and he wants to do it in cast iron. And I said, well, I could probably work on adding oil feed to my to my Foundry, so I could do cast iron. You're running on natural gas now, and that won't get hot enough for cast iron. So anyway, we're going to do some improvements to the Foundry today. We're not going to change the fuel for it, but we're going to make some other improvements. But before we get down to there, we're going to have to talk about Bubba. It seemed like Bubba went down to the doctor's office, and went in. The receptionist asked him what he had, and he said shingles. So he told her to sit down over there, and somebody will get to you here in a minute. So the nurse's aide come out a little bit and asked him, what do you got? And Bubba said shingles. So she wrote it down, and about a half hour later, the nurse come along and took him back in the room and did a blood test and blood pressure and electrocardiogram, and told Bubba to take off all his clothes and wait for the doctor. You know how these things go. And an hour later, the doctor come in, and he sees Bubba sitting there, patient in the nude. And he asked Bubba, he says, what'd you come in here for? And Bubba said, shingles. The doctor said, where? Bubba says, outside on the truck. Where do you want me to unload them? Yeah, there you go again. Another second-rate redneck joke. All right, well, let's go out and work on the Foundry. Maybe I'll get in a lot less trouble like that. What we're going to do here, this used to be an office chair. I think they called it a secretary's chair. I guess the secretary got a less comfortable chair than the boss. But what I did was the other day, I put it in the saw and I cut off that little cup that this piece here had set down in. And this is a nice Acme screw, and it could be useful in the project. But what I want to do is take my Foundry and set it on here. I think this is better wheels than that wooden thing. And I want to weld on something here to give me a lever. I can just reach over, pick up the lid, and then move it back out of the way and latch it down out of the way. And then when I'm through putting things in order, move the lever back over and let it down on there instead of having to take it off and carry it over and set it down somewhere. Which I guess maybe that's just could be laziness on my part. But I've still got to grind off some of that cup off of that set of wheels there. So let me go get my safety glasses and I'll be right back. We'll get started with this project by grinding this little bugger off smooth. At least we hope so. We'll find out. That's going to take a really long time, so I'll bring you back after I've made a little progress. And as usual, it'll look like I magically cut it off in a couple of seconds. Alright, got that little knot ground out of the middle of it. I used this little guy to check to see if it was level. This thing isn't straight, on the flat side, but the thin edge side is straight, so I had to get me a bucket to sit on. I discovered an old redneck's not built right for squatting down on the floor trying to grind that. Boss lady was going to throw those buckets out the other day, and I said, no, that's my mechanic's seat for when I do brake jobs and stuff. I need it, so there you are. Alright, let me get some angle iron. We'll cut some up to set on the edges and mount this thing on. I'll cut the 4 pieces of angle iron. Good generous width. I figure maybe that's about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. I didn't really measure it. That's just as far as my stock would go in. And we'll use these to position that Foundry on the wheels over there. Okay, so I got some 1/4 20 screws that I'm going to use to bolt these pieces of angle iron on that little set of wheels. So I've got this set so I can just set them in there, and I'm approximately in the middle. Well, there you go. You need to tighten them down, don't you? That's not a good habit to have, but there you are. Probably drill a lot better now. I'll come back when I get it on the center. After drilling a bunch of 1/4 inch holes, I discovered that the countersink is just too fat, so I'll have to use a 1/2 inch drill. As you can see, the 1/2 inch drill bit does a really good job of countersinking, and I don't need the countersink. Alright, here's another first for me. I forgot to drill all 4, I just did 3. So I'm going to go ahead and make the countersink, and then I'll put the hole in the middle. And of course it works just as good either way. Yeah, isn't that neat? You see that bicycle hanging upside down there? Well, I've gained enough experience to know that I can't keep my brain engaged long enough to walk past there without hitting it, so I've got to work out something hanging down or some way to put my brain in gear before I run into the stupid thing. I'm getting tired of that. Alright, so it's time to drill some holes in this guy and mount at least a couple of the screws on it.
Yeah, that's pretty fast for an old geezer, huh?
Alright, I remeasured the Foundry and I measured the location I wanted to put the parts all over again, because here lately I found it seems to be a lot easier to remeasure than to redo. I bet somebody would agree with that. During the couple of seconds you blinked your eyes there, I went down to Redneck Supply and got some more screws, these 1/4 jobs, and I know better than to just pick something up out of the bin and count them out, because the phantom of the hardware store got me again. One of them isn't as long as the others, and it's a stupid slotted head, which I hate. I'd never buy a slotted head fastener if I had a choice. So if you go to the hardware store and you're picking something, bolts out of the bin, check every single one of them. You don't be careless like me and keep coming home with one odd piece. Alright, there we are. Got it on the wheels, and I took the crucible out of it and took the top off, and it still weighed about 1,000,000 pounds. But it's sitting on there. Those pieces of angle won't let it slide off in any particular direction, and the wheels are a lot further out than the last piece. And the next step, I had hoped to use this screw here to weld on something and make an arm, and let this little acme thread just pick the top up as it moved over. So that's still to be done. I don't know. I guess it's back to Steel Supply to get some square tubing that I can put that screw into, or maybe I'll just get some square tubing and make a little collar around it. But we're almost finished here, and yeah, that's all the progress I made last night on that crepe myrtle stump. It was I guess about 4 or 5 foot tall, and I chewed away under the pole saw until the mosquitoes got full. They wandered off for after dinner drinks or whatever they do, and the sun was about gone and the old geezer was tired. I started out there with a tree about as big as that one right there, and it all went in the garbage can over a period of about 6 weeks. But I left the 3 big pieces at the bottom, and they started to branch out like crazy, and I really want the thing to go away. So every day I'll probably come out and work a little on that. Alright, so I went to Steel Supply and I got a piece of tubing, and yeah, those 4x4s, that's another little job to do, but that's a house maintenance job. Anyway, there's the little fella sitting right there on the wheels, and I noticed that it's got a little rock to it. Rocks back and forth like that on the wheels there, and it's just a piece this thick under it to make it solid again. So what I'm going to do is put that piece right on top of one of those pieces of angle, which means I get the fun of picking that thing up again and setting it on the floor. I didn't enjoy that a lot, but what the heck. We'll put a little countersink in the hole that's already in that piece of metal, and put it underneath there and screw it down, and we'll be in business. I'll be back. Okay, so I took that little piece of angle iron and cut one side of it off and sandwiched it right on top of that piece there, and now it's thick enough to take all the rocking and rolling out of that Foundry when I set it on there. And I can go on to making the next piece, which will be for lifting the top up and moving it over to the sideways. That's what that square tubing's for. So I'll be back in just a minute.
The idea here is to bore this thing out and make a cup with a top on it with a screw hole to put the lever that'll lift up the lid and move it to one side. I don't really know what kind of metal it is. All I can say is it's mystery metal, but once I get it all centered up here, we'll bore a hole in it and saw the thing in half and have us a cap to go on top of the 1-inch tubing that I got at Steel Supply. There's an incredible amount of work involved in turning a piece of mystery metal into a little metal cup. I gotta do drilling and boring, and in between all the stuff here I'll have to cut that shiny piece off and take it over to the bandsaw and cut it off, and then I'll turn the thing around and bore a hole in it that you can put a 1-inch square tubing into so that it'll make a nice cup.
I'm sure I've threaded this hole deeper than I need to, but you know, it's better to have a little bit extra here. When I roll the thing over and drill the hole on the, cut the hole or drill the hole on the other side, I want already to be through threading this side of it. So I'll take it out now and put it in the bandsaw and slice it off some, and then I'll be back.
The horsepower of your equipment makes this job faster. Unfortunately, this is a small lathe and not much horsepower, so it takes a lot longer than an A-bomb machine. I like to use an end mill for some of the drilling jobs because it makes a nice square bottom in your hole, and that's good for boring. This is my largest boring bar, so we'll proceed at the pace it can take. Okay, this hole that I'm putting through here will go all the way through, and we'll set this down over the 1-inch square tubing, and then I'll take a drill and drill clean through it. This will keep the little cap fastened securely on top of the tubing and make the lever work. This is the piece that's going to stand up straight and have that big metal cap on top of it, so I need to make some holes. It'll be a lot easier to make these holes line up if I just drill it here. Once the bar is straight, all I got to do is drill a couple of holes. Easier said than done, though. That's a hard place to reach. I made that cap installation a little difficult for myself by not thinking about trying to line it up in the exact position I had it when I drilled it, because the holes were just a little off center, but at least I finally get it together. I get the handle on, but the job stops because I don't have a clip at the end of the cable.
A little trip to Redneck Supply fixed me up with the last clamp I needed to get that cable to stay still. I don't like the compression kind, because when I fix them up they come loose. Now that came on the cable, and it was probably done with some kind of special tool, so it'll probably work, but they don't work good for me. But now that whoops, sorry about that. Cable hung on the camera. Now I can lift this little guy up and push him over to the side, and I don't think I need a bolt there for holding on to that. That was probably just overkill on my part. It looks to me like that'll do the job just fine. It hangs on to the top, gets the top out of the way. I believe I'm going to call that a wrap right there. That should do the job. I appreciate everybody watching, and if you'd like to subscribe, that'd make me really happy. And please leave a comment, especially, you know, if there's something I could have improved on, or you need to make a suggestion, or you'd like to tell me where to shove it, or whatever, you know. And y'all come back for the next exciting episode of Redneck's Pearls. Whatever. And thanks. Bye.